Please share with me your first, last name, where you're located, and the name of your business.
Yeah, my name's Chris Marr. I am based in Dundee in Scotland in the UK, and my business is the Authoritative Coach.
Tell me a little bit more about it's the word for me, authoritative, of course.
Right.
So tell me more about the authoritative coach.
Yeah, so the word I think is important, right? It's a curious word. I don't think people use it all that much, and I think the word authority has some negative connotations sometimes as well, right? So I think a lot of people will get this of me when they meet me for the first time, understand it a bit more. But authority has this sort of like power over other people, right? And that's not really what we're after. We're not really there to like try and control other people or manipulate other people. But we do want to have, as experts, as professionals, we do want to have control and influence and respect,
Yes.
right? And that requires an authoritative presence. Like, how do we turn up? How do we talk about our thing? How do we work with our clients? How do we craft those relationships with the people that we work with? And how do we, even through our marketing, our content, podcast interviews, how do we turn up in an authoritative way that allows the people around us to feel like I can trust this person,
Yes.
I respect this person, what they're saying sounds interesting. In fact, it's influencing me or motivating me to want to change in some way. And so I think there's a lot of ways in which we
Yes.
accidentally diminish our authority,
Hmm.
that then leads to people around us not really trusting us and not really respecting us and not taking us seriously. And that's the work that I'm in, is helping people to see how they are accidentally diminishing their authority and help them to, with the skills, the confidence, and the consistency, to get that control, influence, and respect, and ultimately become authoritative in their expertise. So that's what the word is all about, and that's what it means to me.
And I love it. I love it. So I didn't think that I was going to actually bring this in, but I just had an aha moment as I was taking the 20 question, the what is it, people pleasing assessment. There
Sure.
were questions in there that were asked, such as setting boundaries, and
Mm.
that's having authoritative control, setting appointments, feeling some type of way after you set boundaries. And so now it's linking to me as you just spoke, as you were
Mm.
trying to hear or have an understanding. The assessment was trying to have an understanding of how authoritative can you be without feeling some type of way, a type of guilt or outside of that. And with that assessment, what can you do with that? I just had all this aha moments, Chris.
There we go. That's 3 minutes into the podcast. That'll do. I think there's a couple of things that are really important to mention there,
Yes.
which is that people don't necessarily want to be known as a people pleaser. I think
Mhm.
we've all got a sense of what that is and why it's not great,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And then there's the difference between being a people pleaser in your professional life and a people pleaser in your personal life, right? Those are can be slightly different. I've had lots of people asking me about all of this. I'm really focused on how people pleasing is showing up in your professional work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when we think about boundaries, I think it's really interesting because we want to have better boundaries. We want to be able to communicate them more clearly, and we don't want to feel guilty about it when we do it.
Yeah.
And therefore, what we need to do is work on, why are they important, right? Why is it important that I'm able to communicate this boundary clearly?
Mm-hmm.
Because it allows me to do my best work. And if I let somebody, if there's a transgression of that boundary and I allow it, it means that like I'm overwhelmed or I'm overworked or I'm tired, I get sick. And it's like, what you're doing is, I like to use, instead of saying boundaries, I like to say set the conditions for success.
Yeah.
Like, what does it look like for you as the authoritative expert, the professional, to take the time to set the conditions for success in the relationship between you and the client? Because you know what that should look like because you're the experienced person. The client's doing it for the first time, maybe. What does it
Yes.
look like to set the conditions for the work that we're going to do together so we're successful at our highest potential?
Yeah.
And what does it look like to set the conditions so that me, the professional, can do my best work? And therefore, obviously, that rubs off on all my clients. And so when I think boundaries, I think the better way to look at it for professionals is to take the lead on setting the conditions for success, right?
When you decided to come up with that name, Authoritative,
Yeah.
how what was your thought? Like, what did you? He was like, This is what I'm
Well,
gonna say.
so the world, like, it's a busy place out there, right? And all these other words are taken. Like, I looked at a lot of things like transformative coach, or like loads of people had, actually, you wouldn't be surprised, but quite a few people had opinions about what it should be or shouldn't be.
Uh-huh,
But
uh-huh.
what I knew, I think, from the beginning, it's interesting because nothing was ever like, it wasn't, I didn't go from 0 to 1. It wasn't like black and white. It wasn't like one day I just knew. It was like, it all started as an experiment, right? I
Mm,
was like, well, what happens if I started an Instagram account with the name? No branding, no, like if you scroll back on my feed, you'll see all this, like, just, I didn't know what I was doing. But what I knew is that nobody else owned that word. And when I mean owned it, nobody else was known for that word,
yeah.
right? And I think it's important that people are able to, like, so for example, people today will send me content about people pleasing. They're like, have you seen this, listen to this podcast, or have you seen this article? Because they know they've got like a hook to put their jacket on. Like, they know that people pleasing is my thing.
Yeah.
And so they know that that's the word. So I'm like, authoritative was one of those words that
Mm-hmm,
nobody else seemed to be using.
mm-hmm.
And I thought, well, that looks like a clear opening for me. I'm going to take that word and I'm going to own it. It became the title of the book. And even though coach is in the title,
Yeah.
it's really about being more coach like in your work. So it's really, if you don't, a lot of people don't see themselves as a coach, but they could certainly be more authoritative and they can certainly be more coach like in their work as well. So that's where that all came from. It was very much an experiment, very much a sort of organic idea that eventually became, this actually feels really good,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then just put money behind it and attention into it and started to brand it all up, and it became a very organic approach. Like, it was built very organically and still is to this day.
Yeah.
Just every month it seems to get a bit tighter, a bit more clear, a bit more known.
Yes. And so when I seen your picture, if I may say, just the word, right? The name of the website and then the hands folded, I was like, is he gonna be mean?
That's right, yeah.
And so I was like, I had to read into it. I had to go into it. And I was like, is he gonna be mean? And me thinking that you're the authoritative coach. So one thing that I
Right.
love about this, Chris, and what I do is that I'm a firm believer that there's somebody behind the website. There's someone that is just as human as you. And when we go on a website and we see all these accolades and all these, about me's and who we've helped, I love hearing about the person behind the website
Sure.
who, because as I mentioned, that's what I saw. That was my first thought was he's going to be
Yeah.
authoritative. He's going to tell me what I need to do, how I need to do it. I might not have any input. Well, everybody, I was wrong. Jamaica was wrong. And I
Yeah.
love it. But I love how it sticks because that's something that I'm going to definitely
Right.
remember. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's a bit of a juxtaposition between the word authoritative and the word coach. Because
Yes.
what you're saying there is, like, authoritative means consultant, telling me
Mhm.
what to do,
Yes.
giving me the answers, doing all this work, but authoritative and that, I think that's an interesting, it's just very interesting to hear you say that.
How long have you been doing this?
Well, the authoritative coach as a business is 1 year old today. Which is awesome, right? Which is really cool. So we're celebrating 1 year, but I have been doing this work for over 10 years now. This in this particular field.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think that when I started calling myself a coach was probably about only as recent as like 6 or 7 years ago. I
Mm,
never really felt like a coach, but I always felt like a teacher. I was always I felt like a teacher of adults. And I have done that since I was 19 years old. So for about 25 years,
wow.
I have taught adults something, like a training course or just any type of knowledge or information. I've done it for so long now. But in my more mature years, I have kind of taken like acceptance or ownership of the title as a coach,
Yeah,
because I figured out that that's actually what I'm doing,
yeah.
is coaching. So it's been been doing it for a long time in some capacity, but not always, not always like with the label as a
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah. What made you take that leap and just accept it?
Yeah, so I've always been very, like, I like to explore all the different, like, angles or perspectives or mental models in the work that I do. And one of those paths took me into counseling. So
Mhm.
I went to the local university here in Dundee. I did I started a master's in counseling,
Mhm.
which is a long program, over 4 years,
Mhm.
and I quit after 9 months.
Okay.
And the reason that I ended up leaving, initially, I saw this big overlap between coaching and counseling. I could
Mhm.
see it was the same sort of skill set,
Mhm.
same type of approach. But as time went on, I saw those sort of like that Venn diagram of those circles pulling apart. And it was really good for me. I don't regret starting and I don't regret quitting. But what helped me understand was that that's coaching is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
It helped me see that there was a distinct difference and that I wasn't necessarily supposed to be all in on counseling, but I
Yeah.
actually took a lot of the counseling skills and applied them to my coaching, which I thought was fascinating. So I think that was certainly one of the experiences I had that sort of locked me in
Mm.
into coaching, was just understanding the difference between, well, what's counseling, what's consulting,
Yes.
what's coaching, the distinct differences between these different types of work, and then being able to see that actually, yeah, that is what I do. I coach.
You know what's interesting, and my mind tends to go when I'm on these. You said something: coaching, counseling, and consulting.
Right.
Would you mind sharing with
Sure.
me those different and how you see that they're different?
Yeah, I could do it in a sort of broad stroke. Certainly, I think as a coach, I think it's important to recognize that as a business coach, there are times where you need to be a consultant. And I think it's easy to kind of explain what those are. So, as
Mhm.
a coach, a lot of times I'm asking questions, I'm looking at you for the answer, not the answer from me. So, I'm like, well, what do you think we should do about it? What do you think we missed? If we did that, what do you think would happen? What would be the worst case scenario? Like, I'm looking to you to kind of like work through the problem, work towards the answer, knowing that if you come up with the solution for yourself, you're going to own it. You're going to feel motivated to want to do something about it. You're going to take ownership of it, right? That's really key. That's the coach, right? The coach is going to sit there with you in that tension. The consultant, however, has to come in sometimes. If you think about a seesaw, just like going tipping all the way to one other side, it's like, okay, I've listened to everything you've said. Here's exactly what you need to do. You need to do this, this, and this. And then once you've done those things, we need to do this, this, and this. And once we've done them, we'll be done. So there's someone that's actually with their consultant hat on, is defining the path or is coming up with the solution.
Yes.
Because either the client can't do that themselves, or the coach has got to the point where if I let you continue down this path, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. And I can't sit here and watch you do that. So it's advisory time, it's consulting time.
Got
So
it.
you switch between the two.
Yes.
So, but the one thing that coaching and consulting has in common is that you're usually hired as an external objective source from the client, right? So I can look and see the behaviors, the things that you're doing that are getting in your way. The other thing that they have in common is it's usually future orientated, right? So I'm keen that after every session and the work that we're doing, we're moving towards something, we're moving forward.
Yes.
And that's a distinct difference in counseling. In
Yes.
counseling, there isn't really a sense of urgency to move towards a solution,
Hmm.
and it's generally focused on the past rather than the future.
Of course, also 4.5 years compared to maybe taking some courses to get it coaching and consulting might be a
Yeah,
difference too.
there's a big lesson there, though, right?
Yeah.
I could have changed my whole career thinking I was supposed to be a counselor, but instead, I went and tried to figure it out first. Like,
Yes.
I tried it on like a jacket. I was like,
Yes.
this is a good fit for me. Actually, it's a bit big in the shoulders. It's not really for me. And I was able to try it on without upending my whole career and
Absolutely.
going all in on something before I really figured out. I think oftentimes we have a romantic idea
Mhm.
about this thing that we want to do. And I think it's good to go and just explore it without anything at stake. and really figure out actually what parts of this do I not like, and
Absolutely.
then make a decision. So there's a big lesson in there, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Not to mention there's a financial aspect to all these three differences as well too. Um,
Yeah. Oh
with
yeah, hugely.
yes, with authoritative coaching, I would not be Vision Pros Live if I did not ask you to tell me about your vision. Where are you going? Where are you at?
Right. So this business that is a year old today, I want this business to be the business I run for the next 10 to 15 years.
Love it.
And the mission is to help people, generally speaking, professionals, to feel more confident and to get the sense that they really are stepping into their authority as their experts, right? So when they come into work every day, they feel like they're really making a difference. They have influence, they have respect from people. I want that to be true for them. And so part of that vision includes me building and creating a place where professionals can come and actually talk about the challenges that they're having with their clients. This is something that I pulled from counseling, which I think is really critical to the story, is that in counseling, if you want to be a registered counselor, you need to have a formal source of supervision. I need to
Yes.
meet you every month so I can talk about my clients. That doesn't exist in other professions,
Yes.
right? So if you're a client facing professional, you're working with clients every day, you don't have a place where you can go and actually talk about what's happening in your client relationships. And that's where I want people to come, is to come to me and actually troubleshoot it, unpack it, practice it, role play it, get different skills, different perspectives, frameworks, tools, methods, practice all of that, actually watch their client sessions. Nobody does that. Watch their client sessions, give them feedback, all so that they can go back to their clients with this heightened sense of confidence,
Mm.
with the right skills, so they can really just feel truly confident in the work that they're doing. And if the coach or the private, if the professional is confident,
Yeah.
that rubs off on the client. The client doesn't want to feel more doubtful. They want confidence. And so that's what I want for everybody that I work with, that they feel like they're doing their best work. They feel like they're thriving in the work that they're doing. They feel like they're making a difference. And when they work with people, they listen, they do the work,
Yeah.
and they get the best results as well.
With that, is there a specific level that you work with, or you work with entrepreneurs, individuals,
Sure.
corporate, such as that?
Yeah, it's really broad, actually. I
Okay.
don't really niche down on the type of person. If you work with clients in a professional setting, then the work that I do will absolutely be relevant for you. Now, for the most part, though, it's owners, usually somebody who owns the business,
Okay.
and I'll work with their team. So I
Okay.
work with sales teams, account management teams, leadership teams, and owners, usually, generally speaking.
Okay.
So sometimes that means an agency will come to me and I'll work with the owners, and I'll
Gotcha.
work with their client facing team. I'll work with their sales team. I'll work with all of them. So yeah, it's any capacity really. I just want to, like I said, the vision's there, right? It includes everybody, essentially, is what I'm trying to get at. Yeah.
Sounds good. And before I leave, I have one favorite question. I always
Sure.
ask everyone,
Okay.
what are the greatest joys of what you do?
Oh, there's so many. Let me try and pick one the one that comes front of mind is just a very recent one.
Okay.
You know how we mentioned earlier about if you grow, you're more valuable to others, right? If you're constantly working on the stuff that's like challenging for you and you're having breakthroughs,
Yes.
you're more valuably positioned to help others.
Yes.
Well, what happened in my work, this is so cool to see, is that because I'm working on my stuff,
Yes.
I can help others. So I help this person, a coach, she's a coach, a consultant. I help her to have breakthroughs in her own business, stuff
Hmm.
that she was resisting. And so I help her with it. And then the next thing I know, I see her clients doing the same thing for their business. And
Yeah.
it's like there's this trickle effect. And I love like the fact that I'm behind the curtain. Like
Yeah.
I'm not looking for the spotlight. That's not what this business is all about. The spotlight should be on the client and the results that they're getting. But it was so interesting to see the spotlight being shone on their client doing the things that we've been working on. So I thought that was like really cool just to see this sort of second order or third order impact of the work that we were doing together. I just thought it was just a really cool
Yeah.
kind of like thing that was worthy of celebration and
Yeah.
recognition.
Thank you for being here today. I'm really happy that you tuned in to Vision Pros Live. I'm looking forward to seeing your reactions as these episodes continue to move forward. This is going to get more and more fun. We'll have more and more engagement as well. We'll invite people to participate in the show. And thank you for giving us your time and attention. Have an excellent time building out your vision and becoming a Vision Pro yourself.